Clare.
Bonjour, welcome. My name is Nadine Wietlisbach. I'm the director of Photo Museum Winterthur, and I have the honor to moderate this conversation about collecting the photographic, current and future practices. And I'm here with Clare Strand, Hanako Murakami, and Viktoria Binschtok. And all three of them, they have very different practices, but a lot of questions who surround acquisition practices are very similar to most photographers or most artists working with photography. No matter if it's in paper form or in a digital format, there are a lot of overlaps, and we're going to be speaking about them. But first and foremost, it's all about the artists and the practices. So I'm very happy that all three of them will present current work or projects they are still sort of busy with and have certain questions also around possible acquisition practices. And we're going to dive right into, but first we're going to do a warm-up. We're going to warm up because everybody needs to warm up at Grand Palais this year. So I have a question. You can choose one or the other. It's completely unrelated to photography. That's why it's called warm-up question. So I'm going to start with Viktoria. It would be Beyoncé or Cardi B?
Beyoncé.
Hanako, it's pain au chocolat or thé froid?
What is this question?
You just have to choose the one you prefer.
Pain au chocolat?
Pain au chocolat ou thé froid?
Thé froid?
Iced tea.
Thé froid? Un bar au chocolat.
Mais bah oui. Claire? Black or white photography?
Black or white
Photography or color photography?
Oh, I was going to say I choose between black or white.
Right, no, yeah.
Black and white.
Okay. So I like to start the presentation. So we're going to start here. I'm just going to see how this goes. Viktoria Binschtok is going to start with the first image. I'm going to move.
Hello. Bonjour. Bonjour. I'd start quickly because we only have like 10 slides, 8 minutes, so don't lose time. I work with the medium of photography, of course. I actually use photography in various ways, always conceptually. So all of my works are constructed rather than documentary. I mostly deal with themes or phenomena around digital culture, networked global community we live in. And I'm basically interested in how the medium of photography is constantly changing with or due to new technologies. There have been quite a lot in the past 20 to 30 years, which I witnessed, and such as digitization or smartphones, social media, and most recently AI generation image possibilities. And all these innovations, they have a major impact on our visual culture. And in my works, I basically process this exciting relationship or even the dependency between the medium and the message. So this is an installation from the past. It was shown 2015 in CO Berlin. I had a solo show there, and I presented a couple of works, and that was my new work at that time. I started to work with an image search algorithm by Google I'm sure you know this, where you can upload images and get similar images back. So I started to work with this possibility and uploaded my image to see what it was connected to. I was actually fascinated by this tool because it was all about visuality. So it was searching without text or words. So before we had always this connection between image and words or text. But here it's all about visual content. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can switch, but I have a lot to say about the first one. Just a few words for this presentation, because you see it looks totally different, but it's all one body of work. I used these images and restage this image results and put them together with my starting point. And because these images that I found, they had no form online, I was free to choose their form, and that's what happened. Yeah, but you can switch to the next one. And this is an example from 2020. Oh, actually, could you go to the next? Because here you can see a closer look. So what happens when you combine images that are not related content-wise, and this is basically what I was doing. So this practice is actually a collaboration between me and the machine. I have outsourced a part of my work to an algorithm, but I had still control over this visual overload by choosing what I wanted to be mine image. So it's also an act of empowerment, I would say. But can you just go one back to the installation? Yeah. This is from 2020, from my show at Clems Berlin. And this installation shows actually a couple of these works in a room. And my idea was to show them in different layers, and also in a structure in a room where you had many paths to go through this image, image layers, so to say. Okay, I think we have to go to the next one. This is actually the installation from the back, where no image can be seen, no visual input, but here you had the opportunity to see what's behind each image. So you see things or information which are usually not shown in an exhibition, like my signature or the title of the work. So this was also an idea to like an analogy to metadata of JPEGs, of digital images online. They all have this text-based information which you don't see. So this is this was the idea for this show. Yeah, yet we can switch to the to this installation. This is from 2022. I had a show in Oldenburg, Oldenburger Kunstverein, which is a great institution in the north of Germany. And I, as you can see on this wall, this work, this is site-specific. It's called Proofs. And I arranged and taped over hundreds of, or 100 images on this, not images, like test prints on the wall. And these tests are usually printed before the final image is produced, so they go to the trash afterwards. Anyways, I collected them over years without actually knowing what I was going to do with them, but then I had this idea, because for me they represent also this challenging process of my artistic work, which is normally not visible to the audience. The next, so we can see detail. This is the detail of this wall with by proofs. My engagement with photography is very time-consuming. It's intense, and it's always a decision for or against images. So it's a constant struggle also with my own ideas. And I guess this installation is also a tribute in a way to my own work as an artist, and with all this pros and cons. So this, I think, the work about. And you can also see some little notes on this print. So I made like many proofs for one image. So they also, show the time-intense process I was working on one certain image. We can go to the next. Oh, this is actually, we can also, the next, I haven't seen this one, but yeah. I go through very quickly because these are the new images, or the images from my new work, which is also can be seen here at Paris Photo, at Clem's gallery. And all these images are part of a body of work which is ongoing right now. It's called Digital Semiotics. And all these photographs are inspired by our digital communication, where we use symbols and symbols, signs to emotionalize our messages, or even to completely replace the text. So this visual language, which in a way simplifies our text-based communication, is in fact not as simple as it seems, as there are many slangs out there. So the meaning can change from group to group, or generation to generation, or platform. So the symbols, like fruits, not in this case, but they are like fruits, and vegetables, can be used as visual codes to exchange illegal or drug-based or pornographic content. You all may know the eggplant emoji, which represents the penis, as there is no simple representation of this body part on the keyboard. And yeah, my last sentence. So symbols can be political or signs of resistance, like the watermelon for the colors of Palestine, flag, and so on. As this pictorial language is always in a flow and constantly changing, there can't be a universal translation of the symbols. And my photographs are therefore no simple translations. They are more like snapshots of this global phenomenon of our communication. So in my digital semiotic, I use photography to reflect on this outside the digital space. So if you find them cryptic or surreal, then it's totally fine, because this is all they are about. That's it. Okay.
Hello, I'm Clare Strand. Today I'm going to read from a script. I'm going to talk about a piece of work, and it's kind of quite a lot of information, and I want to get it all in our 8 minutes. So I think this is the best way to do it. There's even some maths at the end. So I'm going to try and go slow, but fast as well. Okay, so today, let me just click on here. Today, I thought I would talk about my work, All That Hoopla, that I made in 2016, and which continues to tour. It has just finished its outing at the Bundeskunsthalle in Bonn, Germany, and I'll return to that a little bit later. Most recently, my projects have become audience participatory. This is a surprise to me as much as anyone else, as I'm not keen in being in charge of people. However, I'm at a stage where I want work to work and to be active. Providing events that can only be experienced properly by being physically present seems to be a good and energizing way forward, at least for the time being. I've chosen all that hoopla as it feels the most appropriate work to discuss, as intentionally made to mirror and consider the mechanisms and structures of the art market. Parallels can be drawn between the activity under the cheap tarpaulin roof of my hoopla stall and the activity under the beautiful glass roof of Paris Photo. My hoopla stall was bought from the artist resource hub of eBay. Here it is in its parts. And there's my stepson modeling them. He's now 24, but he's now 32, he's 24 there, so it's quite useful to use kids to date work. As many of you will have experienced, there are many hurdles for an artist to not only present their work, but to make any form of income from their practice. I see my hoopla stall as some amount of agency over these issues. With this in mind, I customized the panel of the stall with words that artists will know well: fate, risk, fortune, fluke, lose, chance, gamble, and luck. Following the rules of the traditional hoopla stall, a circle of 15 wooden blocks are tiered in height hierarchy. At a regular fairground, which I'm most accustomed to because I live in a seaside town, there are usually a jar of sweets or a bottle of vodka or a cuddly toy with a £10 note strapped to it. But with all that hoopla, I use 15 of my own photographs adhered to each block. Each photograph is offered as a signed edition of 10, and if a photograph is won, the pre-prepared images are signed and numbered under the stall ready to give to the winners. Along with flashing lights and music, I entice the audience to pay €5 for 3 rings or 6 for €8 to win and hoop one of my photographs. I am the show person in the centre, drumming up interest with energetic conversation, wearing my money apron, oohing and ahhing when a near miss has happened. It is essential to keep the energy up, even if there are amounts of vulnerability, because not all artists are good showmen. There are rules to be played by. As the tradition of the hoopla would have it, the hoop must go not only over the photograph, but the entire block. This is often contested by disappointed customers, but a firm pointing to the signage, usually with a stick of some sort, usually settles the confrontation. So we are clear, this is a win and this is a lose. No leaning is also very important. Go back to the 1 second. Oops, now I've done it. Oh, no, what have I done? Okay, go back, 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, I meant to do that, yeah. Okay, so no leaning is always very important. I know this as when I was 10, I won an entire hoopla stall contents by leaning over the stall, ending up with perming solution, tea bags, and an ABBA soap. I cared less for these items, but in the words of my youngest daughter, a win's a win. There is a further provocation. The first time I presented the stall was outside the Unseen Art Fair. At the very same time, the gallery representing me was selling the same work at full price. Therefore, with the fairest game of the fair sign, I am in direct competition with my own representation. The logistics follow suit whenever the stall is displayed. There is always the option to pay full price. Oh God, I've done it again. Hold on a sec. Okay. Financial rules. To continue my financial agency and the entire concept of the stall, it is an absolute rule that all funds acquired on the stall go to the artist. That's me. If, however, the work is purchased at full price, there is a 50% split with my gallerist. The more wins on the stall, the more potential loss for me. When there is a win, everyone is excited. I'm not so. However, the ownership of the work becomes more democratized as participants unlikely to be able to buy full price end up with one of my prints, spreading my work into areas I could never foresee, and this is a win. So let me break this down for you. After a long stretch at the Bundeskunsthalle, there were 9 wins. Each image at full price is €330. It's a good price, but it's still high for people. So the stall made €3,475. That's me. But 9 times €330 minus the 50% that I would be giving to my gallerist equals 1,485. 3,475, take away 1,485 is €1,990. That's me. That's a win to me. I won in this case, but it's not always the case. I do lose. When I'm at the centre of the stall, it is interesting to see how players play. Some people choose to spectate, some try and be strategic, some play as a team, some get angry, and some become addicted. And sometimes I have to tell people to walk away after a while because they're spending too much money, if I know that they can't afford it. If I know they can keep playing. In the case of that hoopla and art fairs, everyone is under the same roof, but are playing different games, under different terms, expectations, and economies. While on the stall, it is abundantly clear to me that it's not about the images, it is the game that is important. The hoopla stall becomes a microscopic art world, an ecosystem of dealers, viewers, artists, and collectors. The stall is a central point for conversation, community, and excitement, muddled with frustration, anxieties, disappointments, and loss. However, helped a little by my chant, everyone's a winner, whilst offering them a Clare Strand loser balloon to the dejected player. All that hoopla is an artwork in its entirety and is available to show. Feel free to contact me on my website. Thank you.
So I'm Hanako. Closer. So first of all, thank you, Nadine, for inviting me, and also thank you for the Paris Photo team, and also for you attending here. And sorry for my English. It's it's been 12 years I'm living in Paris. I'm forgetting a little bit English. But, I'll try my best. So since Nadine asked us that the theme of our conversation will be conservation, so I wanted to follow the instructions, and I picked up some of my works that potentially could have conservation issues. And the first one which came out on my mind was this one, but it doesn't really make sense to put it on visual, because actually it's not a visual work. This one, it was an exhibition last year in a village called Lectour. This is a festival photographic de Lectour, where I presented a work of perfume. And the idea of the perfume was, during my research on the beginning of photography, I figured out that when I am redoing some experiments during the invention of photography, some of them have a very good smell. And that was the one with the inventor Nicephore Niepce. And sometimes he was using a developer with lavender essence, and so it smells very good. So so I made that perfume, and I showed it also. Maybe some of you remember that last year, this is a booth of Jean-Quentin Gaultier last year, and I said with this diffuser that you see, I diffused that perfume. But in a way, my approach to photography is like to show the idea of photography without using photography, and in this case, it was the perfume. And this one is more visual, and this one you can see the same series on the Kenta's booth this year, but this is a very weird photographic technique which is called thermography, and if you don't know it, it's normal because it's a completely forgotten technique that I refound in inventors' documents. And when I investigated about it, none of the museums of the world, as far as I know, have examples from that period. And yeah, so this is the exhibition which is now on view in Jean-Quentin Gaultier's gallery right now in Odéon, if you are curious. And so conservation issue-wise, I wanted to say that it's for me it's quite stable. For me it's quite stable, but you were asking like if there are some more elements that I wanted to leave with the work. This series I made with real plants, like a photogram. So so in a way, the negative, when you make a print, usually you have a negative, but in this way they are actual plants. So I know that some museums want to conserve negatives along the actual prints, but if it is the case, I can leave you the leaves. And then, yeah, this one is similar than the Kenta's Strand picture, but here I wanted to show you the curtain, because this is also a work, and because during my research about the very beginning of photography, I had the occasion to visit Chalon-sur-Saône, the place where Nicéphore Niepce invented photography, and the place where the oldest surviving photography was taken. And there I was wondering, like, maybe there are many elements that did not, that was not recorded in that photograph that survive until this day, and it can be the garden behind him when he takes that photo. So that's why I take a photo of the Nicéphore Niepce's garden, and I made it a curtain. Yeah. So if potentially a collection want that work, maybe it can be the photos that I took of the garden can be a plus to be added with the curtain. And yeah, so you this is the one you see behind the curtain, and this is part. This is also related to photography, which means that when there was everyone knows Daguerre, so the inventor of daguerreotype, and the other inventor, Nicéphore Niepce, was doing correspondences, was exchanging letters, and when Nicéphore Niepce was he was doing many experiments, and Daguerre was awaiting for that invention. And one day he was writing to him that he is burning with desire to see the next essays. And so that was his handwriting, burning with desire to see. And but for me, when I interpret this, now I saw that it can be, this very burning desire can be considered like photography. So that's why I made this neon, so that the actual handwriting will burn by itself. Yeah. So so with this, there was the handwriting which goes along. 1 minute. Okay. And so this one, it's called nomenclature de la photographie. And so it's a list of words which meant photography before the coinage of the idea of photography. Because when all those inventors were doing their invention, they didn't know, they had to invent also a word which puts a name to what they are doing, because they didn't know what is this. So sometimes they called experience, point de vue, copie de gravure, etc. And there were also neologies like physototype, aleotophys, like a Greek word which can mean auto-generating pictures. But somehow at the end it became a daguerreotype, and it was the beginning of the commercialization of photography. And I stopped this list with daguerreotype, because with the commercialization, it's a new phase starting, but I thought that before the commercialization, there's more dream, because at that moment, they didn't know that it was really possible. And so my idea was to put a physical form to those words, and yeah, so that was this one. It's lead. And I was very happy that it was exposed at the Getty Center this year. But with lead, they were saying that it could be a problem. But curators defended me, and finally it was possible. And so there's also a paper stack, so that I make many prints, so that people can take it away. And it's a free takeaway, just because it's like the idea of photography. Because the idea of photography, when it was invented, it was free for all and all over the world. So that's what I did with this print. And actually, you can find the color photography version on Kenta's booth now. And yeah, maybe time up. I have only okay. Time up? Okay. Yeah, it's a similar work. It's a similar work. Yeah. So this is about all the lost work, all the lost experiments from Nicéphore Niepce, and I made a list and put it on empty museum conservation boxes. But we only know it by literature that they exist, but the actual ones don't exist. So I put it only the description, but the content is empty. You just have to imagine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. So as you can see, incredible diverse practices and also different states of, let's say, ephemeral statuses to be conserved or to be collected, which makes them equally compelling, but also not easy, let's say, or it takes a lot of reflection upon the fact how those practices can be actually acquired in a, let's say, in a smart way. And before we speak about the relationship also between different materialities, it's okay. I would also just like to speak about the fact that obviously there are private collectors who acquire work, which is incredibly important for the artists. Work is with art pieces people live with. It's very intimate, it's very close. But then obviously we have the institutional side, museums like Fotomuseum Winterthur, for example, who is also acquiring work. And then there is just so much space to show work. So a lot of artworks being acquired are not on display, obviously. But there are other ways how artistic practices can be shown if they are part of a collection within the museum context. And one is the digital presence. And I was wondering what it means to you, or what is the best way to present work which is part of a collection and to have it some sort of a digital presence, especially when the work is not, maybe not so much in Viktoria's case, because it's still also singular images who are not really, they don't change their shape and form. But with Hanako and Clare, your practices, or also the stand, can change. It's not a fixed form. So what does it actually mean to have the work presented online? Because it's another way of having an insight into your practices. Maybe, I don't know who would like to start.
Obviously the Hoopla stall is kind of quite a special piece of work, but I work in lots of different ways as well. So recently I made 10 large paintings in response to a photographic process, which I shan't go into. But they were all acquired by a institution, which is fantastic, because when you get things acquired, they not only, hopefully you make some money out of it, but they conserve it and they store it. And if you're making big paintings, you need big places to look after them. That can cost a fortune. So when somebody acquires a piece of work, it's like a double bonus, really. But then sometimes when institutions acquire work, it gets stuck in a storage unit. And if people want to loan it, you have to go through quite a big process to get the loan. And also you probably have to pay. So sometimes work can sort of disappear a little bit. So when I was talking to Nadine, it's kind of really important, if just for a small thing, for it to be shown digitally on the institution site to show that that work is actually in their collection, in their archive. Otherwise, it kind of sort of disappears. So, and funnily enough, you wouldn't believe it, but in actual fact, a lot of that doesn't happen because there's a backlog of digitalization of works and everyone's trying to keep up. So there isn't digital representation even of it. So it kind of gets lost. So in my opinion, it's pretty important. It's a small thing. It doesn't show what the work as it actually is. You do need to see it in real life with a lot of work, but at the same time, it doesn't disappear into a hole. And that's something that I think is really important for institutions to remember. That they must, there's a duty of care in a way to not only collect it, but to also promote it, I think, as well.
Maybe, Hanako, can you say something also about the relationship between your conceptual practice and text? Because this is also, when we think about preservation and conservation, it's obviously on a material level, but then it's also about transferring knowledge and also the artist's intention. And text, or also just simple explanations like we just heard, are important to understand the essence of your work. Maybe you can also refer to that in relation to digital presences of institution collections?
Oh, of course, yeah, because actually images and text has a different system of life. So the life of an image, so it will depend if it is a digital image or another image on another support, because supports can deteriorate. Even digital supports can deteriorate, and it will determine the longevity of the image. And it is the same for the text. Text has their own lives, but it depends if it is a digital text or it is a physical text, and on what it is written. It's on paper, wood, whatsoever, but all those materials one day can deteriorate, and that will determine the life, the length of life of that text. And that kind of thing, I feel it every day when I do research for my work, because, for example, the last things that I showed you, all those boxes, the empty boxes for the work of Nicephore Niepce, he did like hundreds of essays for his inventions, but all of his surviving actual work, it's less than 10. It's because images can be very ephemeral, and when they are considered that it's a failure, it can be thrown away, or even if the plate is kept, the image can disappear for chemical reasons or conservation issues whatsoever. But the text survived, and the text doing they are witnessing what was happening during that very moment of the birth of the idea of photography.
Preserving also the conceptual aspect of the work. Yeah.
Yes.
We will move on to one aspect which is the case both with physical work or has some sort of a physical body, but it also is an issue, or it is, let's say, a challenge with digital-based projects and practices, is the fact that we don't know how certain materials will develop. We don't know, we actually have more questions than answers. I also think that's very important regarding collecting practices, both on the private side but also institutionally, that materials change and we know only so much. And sometimes a work gets acquired and then a few years later the curator or the preservator realizes there are some questions, maybe colors change, or materials are used might not simply being constructed to sort of survive storage. And I was wondering, what are your experiences with that? I know that for sure you have experiences also with materials who are sort of changing their shape and form.
Well, not really, because I mean, everything is changing, but I had no issues so far that work really changed so much that I had to replace it. But I had experience with work I was doing in 2011. I decided to tape my photographs into the frame with a masking tape. And I remember institutions were a bit afraid of getting or buying this for their collections because they didn't know how it would develop, and I couldn't guarantee. But then actually private collectors were more risky. So luckily I could survive. And but then more and more also institutions collected this work, and so far it changed a bit, the masking tape changed a bit of the color, but actually I think conservateur or restaurateur are there to like solve the problem, and that's their job. And I once had a conversation also to one great conservateur at a museum, and I asked him, or I described this problem, and he said, I'm the artist, I choose the material for this work, so it is a decision, and everything else just happened. So yeah, that's something that made me like be more, not thinking too much about how material will change, because if I make decisions for a masking tape, it has something to do with a concept, and it has to be in this presented in this way. And thinking too much about how this material will change, and then you might change your work or your idea, but then it's not going to work anymore as a concept. So yeah, I most of the time just do what I have to do.
Yeah, I'd just quickly like to follow on from that, because I had a series of work called Getting Better and Worse at the same time, and the intention was that it deteriorated. So part of the concept is that this work deteriorates. So then there's the conversation there, exactly the same. Your intention is that it does go away. So there you are. That's the conservator's job in dealing with the intention of the artist.
I like this division of tasks. It's very clear roles, or understanding of roles, like what artists can do and should do, and what maybe the institutional side can deliver in one way. I think what is kind of like worrisome at times is that obviously if work is very delicate for some reason, there are also questions around how long a print can be shown, obviously, but also how work is actually exhibited when it comes to like different sorts of framing or printing, or especially work which is kind of fluid in its character, like a project which exists as a file, and it can be, for example, printed in whatever size. We have a work like that by David Horowitz in our collection. So it's also on us to decide how to deal with the work. But there can be also clear instructions. So for my understanding of acquisitions, it's also important to understand what material is also telling the story besides the actual artwork. And I was wondering if you have maybe also wishes for the future, how institutions but also private collectors could deal with preserving the narrative around the work. Because just an example, sometimes we get instructions how to install the work. That's rather technical. But then sometimes there is also this whole storytelling around the work, how it came about, what is important, how it is been created, maybe also with the support of collaborators. And I was wondering, what part of the story would you as artists like to have preserved from an institutional side on top of the actual acquisition of the artwork? I think if I have one thing to ask is that digitizing is not conserving. It's part of the conserving, but it's not the whole. By digitizing, you can preserve it as a data, but it doesn't mean that the whole work is there. It's just because even digital data depends also to a physical something, like it can be
infrastructure.
It can be a server, or it can be your hard disk, but those things are not eternal either. I don't know about you, but for me, the first digital works that I made when I was a master's student, the hard disk, they are somewhere in my maybe in my parents' house, but I'm not sure that I can read the data. It can be lost, and so and even if it is if you can upload some data in a cloud, if there is an earthquake and a server can be destroyed, it's not eternal. So it's very important to divide the risk and so also to preserve the physical thing.
But what if the physical element has a sort of limited lifespan, but then there is still the whole concept and the story around it? So maybe, I don't know, maybe if you like to give me your ideas what is the other parts you would like to have preserved, because I understand very much what you're saying. I think most institutions deal with obvious questions surrounding infrastructures of both kinds, both physical but also digital.
I think what's important, is perhaps right at the beginning when the kind of acquisition or whoever's buying or whatever, the rules are set. It's a little bit like what I was trying to imply with the Hoopla store, is that there's rules. So the rules are set so everyone knows what they're getting. Like I have an entropy pendulum that a private collector has, that a print goes underneath every day and rubs away. Now, every time it gets exhibited, he has to lend that, or the prints come out of the frames and one gets rubbed away. That's kind of a crude way of taking it, but the rules are there. If you're buying like a silver gelatine print that is, it's sold as a, fine art print, and then you find out that it's going to fade in 10 years, you find it's faded in 10 years, and that's not particularly fair. The rules have to be set at the beginning of the acquisition, I would have thought, to then help everyone understand what they're dealing with and to help everyone understand if they want it or not. Your thing is will they want it or will they not? That's the thing. But as long as the rules are set, I think that's fair play, really.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the presence of collections online, which I think is crucial to the audience, because most of us don't see all these museums over the world, and we have access to their collections and their web presence. And I would suggest to every museum just to,
invest
more into this part, and also for the work they collect, not only like showing the work itself, like you said. In my case, it would be easier because it's single images, but as you can see, without this installation, you have no sense of proportion, and also the installation sometimes also changes from space to space, from gallery to gallery, and to get this idea, I think it's really crucial to have also installation shots, and text would be nice. So just think about going deeper into this work, but also make it like not too long, but easily to understand. And I think also many curators or other interested people are researching this through the website, so it's also a chance to educate people.
We have very little time left, but I would like to ask if one of you could share, maybe two of you, depending, share a memorable acquisition, or maybe also just an anecdote of an artwork you have sold and you have been able to place in someone's home or in a collection where you like to think about, or maybe also you don't like to think about because it was incredibly complex, but just like a very important acquisition history for you as artists.
I can go. Just quickly, because it kind of connects with what we were just talking about. I sold. The V&A acquired a series of mine a long time ago called Signs of a Struggle. And it was work that I had really been mucking around with, and I have this idea that if you carry your work in your bag, that by osmosis or somehow you start learning more about it because it's close to you. So I always had this work and I chucked it in my bag and I was going all around with it and bashing it around and stuff. And it was a work about a fake archive, and then it got purchased by the V&A. And it's kind of in bits, and it's a conservator's nightmare, but it got through it. But I think what I find always interesting, I was talking to Nadine, is that gap that big jump between going from something that you carry around in your bag and it's in your domestic space, and then all of a sudden it goes into an archive, and then all of a sudden you have to, and then all of a sudden if you want to view it, you have to put white gloves on, you have to have it under a certain amount of temperature, you have to have maybe even somebody with you, etc. And I think it's just so bizarre and thrilling in a way when you stand outside to think about how this leap from domesticated space to collection space happens. I find it quite funny, to be honest. Good, but funny.
One more?
Yeah, if there's time, I can just quickly tell something from the past. A very early work I made also, it was dealing with eBay and the first images of globes, which I also collected and purchased on this platform in 2000. So it's a really old work from 2000. And it was a huge installation with lots of parcels, this packages of globes that were sent to me from this private people. And the installation was basically photographs and the globes. And I was all over the years, I was like moving from one studio to another with all this wet keller. Like basements, and it was hard to keep this work alive. And so happily I could manage, my gallery placed it in a great collection in Museum Folkwang. But before, it was once shown somewhere where the, I think, intern thought this packages or parcels were the actual artwork inside. So they started to open it, but luckily someone came and just, solved the problem. But yeah, sometimes this happens, but it's also, I think, important. Yeah, for me, it was really important to save this, because for a work that is so fragile and also so huge, I always thought, okay, if it's not gonna be in a collection soon, I can't like afford the space anymore. So it's always also a struggle with all the material and works we have, where to actually store it. So it's a really important role museums have here to preserve it.
Thank you. Hanako, I think we have 1 minute left. They already changed our background.
I see the pressure. So quickly, maybe I share the episode during about the works that I showed for the Getty. So it's a series of lead sculpted words and also a paper stack. So while exhibiting this, it happened this year in May, but we just sent the work and the instructions. So basically, it was very clear that there are lead on the wall and a paper stack. But 3 days before the opening, I received an image from a curator saying, "Yay, we installed. We are very happy." And but I see that the paper stack, I wanted like 40 or 50 centimeters like this, but actually it was on a plinth, and there was a plastic protection, and only like 3 centimeters of paper, and actually apparently it was like a security problem, because they have a very high standard of security, and they were afraid that children get stuck, or I don't know. And but apparently already the curator team already negotiated very much not to cover the lead with plastic cover. Yeah. So, because maybe somebody could touch it and it can be toxic, etc. But by putting the plinth, they said that it can secure. But yeah, so I had to negotiate with galleries and collectioner, etc. But finally, we got the work according to the instructions. So everything which ends well, we were happy at the end. But that was the story.
Thank you, Hanako, Clare, and Viktoria. Thank you to the technical team of Paris Photo, and thank you for inviting us. I hope what we also learned is that art can be dangerous. It's also very inspiring, and we need to take good care of artists' practices. So thank you very much, and enjoy all the following talks. Thank you.